All right, crew, welcome back. Here we go. We are talking about, yes, imperialism. Uh, that is a big topic that we have to discuss for a variety of reasons. Uh, First up, it's because it has a massive impact on world wars. It has a massive impact on economics. It has a massive impact on trade and language and culture and literally everything that we're going to be talking about from here on out. So it's super important that we know it. Um, Starting the video, of course, with a little fun tidbit of knowledge. Y'all know that I love pop punk. Obviously, wearing my Real Friend shirt. It's one of the flags in my room. Well, one of the rooms. You know it if you're in that room. I'm trying to figure out. I don't know which. I don't remember which one's which. But what you maybe did not know is that is obviously not the only genre of music I so very much enjoy. One of the other genres that I find quite appealing is more of your heavier metal emo type stuff, I guess is how you describe it. You may look up Census Fail, Silverstein, A Day to Remember, three bands that I love that y'all should get on that train. They are amazing. And they came out all their stuff when I was in like high school, like their best stuff when I was in high school. So I was raging against the machine. That's also a good band. But anyway, imperialism, let's do it. The three G's. And think of the three G's. Don't be like, oh, is that like Tupac, Biggie, and a Tribe Called Quest or something like that? No, I mean they are G's, but like no, like this, like gold, glory, and I said glory twice. That's an error. Okay, that's an error. It's gold, glory, and God. Those are the three G's. That's why Europe wanted to dominate other countries. Um, let's start with the first G, big E, so to speak. It's you wanted gold because you can control, right? It's your value system in terms of like your economic value system. We don't trade with timber. Like I don't carry around a pocket full of twigs and I'm like, here, I'll give you three birch twigs for that, right? I also don't carry around gold, but that's like the value. Like that's how your money is valued. It's against gold. That's why Fort Knox has tons of gold in it. And it used to be back in the day, it used to actually match gold. Like you could trade in that, but it's gone away from that, and it's a lot more complicated than what I just made it seem. But anyway, back to this. So gold, not just gold, diamonds. Like, have y'all ever seen the movie Blood Diamond? You probably haven't. It's rated R, and you're not old enough yet. But Blood Diamond is a good example of exploitation of certain areas in Africa for their raw resources, their natural resources, diamonds, lumber, coal, gold. Also, there's a cheap market, right? you're gonna spend you're gonna give someone $20 an hour to build something, or you're gonna pay them 20 cents. Well, if you're looking at it from an economic point of view, you're gonna make a lot more money if you pay someone a lot less to do the same thing, right? So there's a cheap market, or a cheap labor market, and then there is now a new market to sell said goods, right? So Europe, let's make it easy. Let's say there's 1 million people in Europe, right? And let's say everyone just needs one vehicle, one car. So you only have 1 million cars to sell. But if you open it up to Africa and there's another 1 million people, now you have 2 million people to sell to, right? So you increase the base, the customer base. So that's the first G. The second G, again, going back and forth, so I make sure I don't miss anything. Glory, right? So there is competition amongst Europe. Shocker, am I right? Like you saying that France and Spain and Germany, well, Prussia at this point, France, Spain, Prussia, England, all them. I'm missing someone, I feel like, but you saying that they all got along? They're all chilling, drinking their tea next to each other, like, oh, like we don't want, like, let's just like chill and be all. No, no, no. They be in competition, and they wanted the most land. They wanted the largest empire. It was an empire measuring contest. so to speak, right? Explorers wanted fame, right? Remember going back to when we talked about the New World and Pizarro and Columbus and Marco Polo. That's not just a game, it's an actual dude, right? Explorers, they wanted to be remembered. So when they want to be remembered, they have to go explore, they have to conquer, and they have to bring back their glory, right? They're bringing it back. They're like, look at all the stuff that I got for this empire. And then the queens and the kings are like, oh my God, you got everything. Look at you. Bam, I'm going to knight you, son. And so that's what happens, right? So now we remember all these explorers because they conquered or they discovered the new land. And they just wanted superiority, right? And then that last G is not glory again, it's God. Um, this is, I'm sure you can think of examples throughout history that we already talked about how God and religion plays a role. But if you can remember, what's the predominant religion of Europe? Right, it's Christianity. And as a result, they want to spread that. They want to spread their God to everyone, to the savages, their perception, right? And they wanted to put that belief system everywhere else. And so, as a whole, Africa isn't Christian. East Asia isn't Christian. The New World, America's not Christian. So they have to expand that. Okay. So those are the three G's: gold, glory, and God. Okay. So you have some social Darwinism. So if y'all remember who Darwin is, remember he's like he went to the Galapagos Islands, which are off the coast of Chile. Oh goodness, I hope I didn't. Chile? Oof. Oh goodness. I think Chile. I could be 100% wrong, but social Darwinism is essentially that there's a one race is superior to another because it goes back to the application of theory of evolution and natural selection. So when you go, Darwin believes that everything like you evolve for, and the best traits and the most adaptable are going to survive, and the weak die out or should die out is essentially Darwinism. Social Darwinism is basically applying that idea to society or applying that idea to humans in a way. And so their argument is like, well, we're the most advanced. We have the most money. We are civilized, quote, civilized. Y'all ever seen Pocahontas, Disney's Pocahontas? And they'd be talking like savages, you know, that song, and they're singing it about each other. Right? So they think each other are savage. Anyway, going back. So Europeans are like, they're savages. They're weaker. They look at them. They don't have trains. Like, that's crazy. They're not as advanced as we are. So we have to like they're a less than race. Okay, that is literally racism, right? Believing you're better based off your race. That's their argument boiled down. The result is that millions are robbed of their cultural heritage, their language, a lot of their beliefs. If you go to Europe, if you go to Ghana in Africa, so my grandparents lived in Ghana for an extended period of time, I think like 10 years, 8 to 10 years. They didn't have to learn any language. The language in Ghana, they spoke English. They didn't have to stress about that. And that's a direct result of imperialism. You go down to South Africa, language is English. It wasn't like that before imperialism. Imperialism brought languages. It brought French to Africa. It brought English to Africa. Just like when you go down to South America and you can speak Spanish. Spanish is not native to there. It was brought by Spain, right? So that's what we're talking about when as a result of people losing their language. Just like in America, the amount of people speaking indigenous languages, like Salish, is unbelievably low. So Salish is one of the native languages around here, and it's incredibly low because it was systematically eradicated or tried to be systematically eradicated. Okay, robbing them of their culture so they conform to the dominant. Oh my god, that sounds like assimilation to me. But forced assimilation. So when we're talking about like why now, well, it's the aftermath, right? Industrial revolutions happened. All the goods and products and services now they're like blowing up, right? So people have all these different abilities to have more product and more at a quicker rate. And now they're going. We need more materials. We need more markets. We need all this, all this, all this. So Great Britain being the first, they need to go somewhere, right? They're on a little spigot of land in the middle of the North Sea. They're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Are we just gonna stop? Nah, we ain't gonna stop. We're gonna go find more stuffs. Where the stuff's at? Well, it's in Africa, it's in India, it's in East Asia. Okay, that's where they're going. They have to find the materials. They have to find the workers. They have to get more customers, and they're gonna exploit all those and bring them back to GB, and GB is gonna be popping. Okay, they're gonna be chilling with their sugar and all their stuff. That's what they be doing. Okay, so industrial nations, what do they get out of it? Well, they get a lot out of it, right? So they get more workers. Again, if you look at your shirts, you look at literally everything in your in. Oh, I shouldn't say everything. Look at a lot of stuff. It's gonna say made in Bangladesh, made in China, made in Thailand, made in. It's gonna say a lot of East Asian countries right now, and that's because there's more workers there, and they produce it at a minimum, like a less of a cost. Okay, so industrial nations see that. There's well, they get more machines out of it, right? So they have more materials to use. They get more machines, make more money, and more factories, more raw materials, more customers. You see how this is like starts doing this? It starts becoming a cycle. You go there to get the materials, exploit the workers to get more stuff to sell it to more people, and then you just keep doing that process and you keep expanding until you've basically gone everywhere. Okay. Well, there's a few reasons. We've already talked about uh, well, I've already mentioned railroad systems. That's going to increase the amount that you can transport and decrease the speed at which you can get point A to point B, right? So that's helping them. Steamships do the exact same thing, right? Up and down the Mississippi. Back in the day, there was like those big like water wheel things. What are they called? They're not called steamships. There's a term for it, and I can't remember it, but up and down the Mississippi. Steamboat. Are they steamboats?
Mark Twain.
Yeah, the riverboats. The anyway. Yeah, Mark Twain riverboat from Disneyland. That thing. If you have a reference point for that. So that helps move things, products quicker, and a lot more of it than just lugging it around. So that's one of the advanced technologies. Obviously, like the loom, all these things that we've talked about from industrial revolution, all the technologies that help make products quicker. And then one of the big ones is the Maxim gun. So it's like allows you to shoot more bullets faster. I mean, to make it just as simple as that, right? So it's that whole term like don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, they don't have guns. All these other countries, they don't really have. Well, they do have guns, but like they don't have that type of gun, and that type of gun is significantly better. Okay, it would be like if you took uh if you got to take like Kevin Durant and you're like, hey, Kevin Durant, he's like, yeah. You're like, hey, I need you to play basketball against fourth graders. He's gonna win, right? Because he has all these advantages. Okay, it's an unfair advantage for him because he's like 7 foot and can dunk. Anyway, you understand you understand. So why? Well, every country has some vulnerabilities. So in Africa, prior to this, there's a ridiculous difference in language and cultures, and there's a lot, right? And there's like I'll show you a map on the next slide to kind of give you more of a reference for it. But Africa is massive. It is massive. You can fit all of the United States, all of Australia, Canada, the vast majority of Europe combined doesn't equal Africa, the size of Africa. Okay, so it's significant, and as a result of its vastness, how large it is, there's a lot of different cultures that aren't exactly connected to each other and don't have the same advantages, right? So they're going to exploit the culture and the language. There's a weak central government system there, right? So one of the advantages of a lot of European countries, they have a very strong central government. They have a very strong like hierarchy. They have a strong like who's in charge, who makes the calls. This is not necessarily the case when it's more of a tribal culture. And they don't have the ability to again, the technology weighs into that as well. Don't have the ability to communicate as quickly. Bingo, right there, lower technology. And some internal strife and conflicts they're able to exploit. Different culture or different like peoples within Africa are gonna have conflicts, right? Like everyone has conflicts. Right. So France has a conflict with Spain. The only difference is France and Spain are significant have this is a very similar culture. Like within France, everyone has a similar culture and language, right? They have a strong central government. They have high technology. So those, oh, I said external. What was I thinking? But anyway, internal conflicts. A lot of them have it already figured out, right? France being one of the exceptions. Like they like to do revolutions, but England for the most part is already done. Like they don't have many conflicts internally. Like they kind of have their poop in a group, their ducks in a row, all their stuff in order, right? A lot of these countries that they're exploiting in Africa don't really have that. They're still like internally like fighting. So, like I said, going back to your map, so in reference to this slide, you can kind of see there's a lot of different empires and cultures, and they're kind of overlapping, and they're not, with the exception of this and kind of here, like there's pretty big areas of land where there's not really a dominant culture or a dominant force, which makes it easy for a dominant force like England, like Spain, like the Netherlands, to dominate. It allows them access to to an area of land with a little bit of resistance. Okay. Uh, this just being a political cartoon. So when you look at this, I'm gonna pause for a second. Then we can look at it. Think about it. Okay. So when you're looking at this, you can kind of see that it's almost like milking a cow, but instead of milk, all the gold from India is pouring out. So this individual milking is representative of Europeans and mostly the British, right? Because the British were the ones that imperialized India, taking all the wealth out of India, just completely draining it. Okay, so it's definitely if I were to make an assessment on the whomever, I don't know the difference. I would say that they're indicting it, saying like, "Boo, boo imperialism, boo England from doing that. Bad, bad England, bad." That would be their opinion, in my opinion. If that makes sense. Anyway, okay, so forms of imperial rule. So there's that colony. Oh my gosh, right? The 13 original colonies in America. Bam. See, territory governed internally by a foreign power. So think about when we go to U.S. history, it is governed by England. Okay, so it is the the external foreign power is governing it internally. Okay, so those are some of the ways in which imperial rule is shown. Another one is what we call a protectorate. It's in which it would be like the U.S. being like the Britain saying, "No, the U.S. you're fine, but we're gonna like help control. We're gonna protect you from anyone that's gonna cause you bad, anyone that's gonna cause you grief, anyone that's gonna try and attack you." And what that does is it basically continues their rule over you, but you still somewhat allowed your own rule, like your own internal rule, if that makes sense. And then your spheres of influence. This was done like in China. as well as parts of Africa. And basically, it says it goes to the government and says you can't trade with anyone but us. We have complete rights to investments and trade here. So that's detrimental because if you only have one person to trade with and they control it all, that's essentially a monopoly on your government from an outside source. So going back to when I talked about robber barons versus captains of industry, thinking about monopolies, yeah, you can kind of think of this as a monopoly, but a country monopolizing all of the trade and all of the investments and all those privileges that come with it and over another country. So spheres of influence. Another one is your economic. So this is where a private company invests rather than government. So this was done actually in Hawaii, right? So private people be coming to Hawaii, investing, and then they are essentially taking control via private. So the East India Trading Company is kind of an example of this in a way because it's not under Britain, like it's not British in terms of like the Queen wasn't like, yeah, do this thing, but it was British, and it's probably a poor example, but anyway, this is a great example. Hawaii being like a lot of Americans going to Hawaii, getting land, making businesses, starting to take their personal interests and the interests of their home country, so America, and try and implementing them in order for it to become more and more and more American and less and less Hawaiian, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, two methods of management. You have your indirect. This is definitely preferred by Britain. They kind of allow the the political rulers of said country to continue to rule, but basically they're like, yeah, you're going to continue to rule, but we have authority, but we're in charge at the end of the day. We're allowing you to stay. Okay, so this is beneficial for those. I mean, it's more beneficial than the next one, which is direct. But it's more beneficial for the existing rules because hey, at least they didn't get like kicked out of it or eliminated, right? So like they're like, okay, we're still in charge. We just have a we just have to answer back to that country that's way over there that we like never been to, but like okay. So I mean, again, it's not great. I'm not saying yeah, like it's yeah. What I'm saying is like it's probably more preferable to this one, which is your direct control. What is going on out there? Silence. Anyway, direct control. So colonies governed by basically the country. They're like, nah, we're not giving you any of this. Like, we're gonna control it. We're gonna put the people in charge. Um, Again, France preferred by a lot of Europe. If we go back to historically the some of the things that we talked about, like Haiti was in charge by French. Remember, we talked about that system based off race, like the more white you are and the more French you are. If you're from France, born in France, you're the top, you're making all the decisions and then so on and so forth. If you don't remember that, please let me know. And I can kind of explain it in the Q&A video I'm going to do at the end of the week for y'all. But that's kind of what we're talking about. And then again, talking about it's assimilation, right? You're trying to slowly and methodically force the other person into your train of thought, into your culture, into your language, into your religion, and you keep doing that, and you slowly take bits and pieces of someone away and add bits and pieces that you want, so that eventually they're just like, okay, yeah, like I am French, I'm not X, Y, or Z. I am English, I'm not X, Y, or Z. Okay, because you're starting to see more of yourself as that dominating force as they're pulling away at what you believe and what you want and who you are and replacing with what they want. You're starting to see yourself more as them and less as you. I hope that makes sense. That is the last slide on this. I hope you kind of have a better idea about some of the reasons why imperialism took place, some of the ways in which it was implemented. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. If you don't have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can still let me know that you don't, but you don't have to. Anyway, on that note, I hope y'all have a great day. Y'all are wonderful. Okay? I'll talk to you later.